Hello, and thank you for watching and listening to another episode of the Podacity with Keita Rose. Here we dare to use our voices, have the audacity to own who we are, and vow, raise up your roses, we vow to never stop, never shrink, and most importantly,
Oh, calm down. Calm down. Never shut up. It's just not gonna happen.
like, share, subscribe, talk in my comments, tell me how you really feel. Hit that bell notification so I can pop up on your timeline. And I'm going to tell you guys how I really feel about this whole Den of Kings, Kirk Franklin podcast episode that really went viral last week. A lot of you are in my comments from the Stephen A. Smith episode asking me what I thought about this whole Den of Kings, Kirk Franklin's new show. This conversation between Jay Barnett and NLE Choppa, Johnathan Majors, Kirk Franklin, Ray J. The conversation was crazy. So let's go ahead and just dive right into it. So a lot of the clips that went viral that I seen was Johnathan Majors looking over at NLE Choppa and saying,
"Have you read the Bible?"
NLE saying, "Yes, I've read the Bible. I listened to the Bible. I received the word."
Well, read it again. Read it again because you don't know what you're talking about.
Have you read the Bible?
I read the Bible. I listen to the Bible. I receive from source straight.
I would say read it again.
This clip definitely rubbed me the wrong way. I understand that it was more Bible-based and it was more religion-based conversation because it's Kirk Franklin. Kirk Franklin is a huge gospel star. Rightfully so, we would be talking about the Bible too and with Kirk Franklin. I don't know what other episodes. I think I saw one episode where he was talking about poly relationships with Tyrese. So I'm pretty sure that conversation just goes anywhere it flows. And I don't hate that, right? A lot of people were saying like, why are these people together? Why are they having these conversations? What is this even about? And honestly, I don't hate this. I actually love it. When I had unmedicated my last podcast, I really wanted to get different people to come together and have conversations. Of course, we stopped that. And I told you guys on my last episode that I'm creating a brand new show and it's still the same basis, right? I love when people come together because everybody has a different perspective. Everybody has came from a different walk of life, a different path, right? We got so freaking stuck with these influencers and these content creators and these authors and philanthropists and these experts. And we're listening to one person tell you how you're supposed to live your life and how you're supposed to praise God and how you're supposed to be a wife and how you're supposed to be a husband and this is how you're supposed to dress. And we've made these people experts and everybody in their own right has lived life, has had some sort of experience, knows what they're talking about in a certain industry, right? Johnathan Majors is an amazing actor. He can tell you about the entertainment industry. Jay Barnett is an author. He might be able to tell you how to publish books. He's also a mental health advocate. I myself am a mental health advocate, not only because I've studied mental health, but also because I have bipolar disorder, right? I can tell you about that disorder when it comes to who I am and what I've experienced in my life. We've got to stop with this whole, I'm an expert and I know everything and pay for their ebook, give these people $19.99 so they can hell up and spend your money on designer clothes, because that's what they're doing anyway. They're spending your money on designer clothes. They're spending your money on living lavishly and making you believe that they know what they're talking about in such a capacity, and that is why they are living lavish, and that is why they are rich. But really, it's just because you bought their $19.99 ebook. That is why they're rich, because you believe that these people know what the freak they're talking about, right? Practicing discernment is so important when it comes to social media now more than ever. Listening to a person and saying, you know what, I can see that you do have the expertise in this. Or you know what, you really did help me get out of this depression. Or you really did help me get out of this funk. Or you know what, I trust you when it comes to what you're saying with your walk with God, right? Or with your mental health journey. It just became too much for me. I'm sorry, I went on a tangent, but it's too much of this person knows everything about this because they've been on Oprah. Okay. I love the idea of coming together, everybody from different walks of life and having a meal and having a conversation. I love that. Right? And that was one of the bases for my show, right? And so we filmed the first couple of episodes. It did not go as planned. I'm still going to post it. I do want to know how you guys feel. If you want to be the first persons or the first people to see it, go on down to my Patreon. That's where I'm going to be posting it first. And then, of course, it will move on to YouTube. But I like the idea. So anyways, they're sitting down, they're having this conversation, and they're talking about their different walks with God, right? I'm not going to hold you. The clip that went viral about Johnathan Majors telling NLE Choppa to go ahead and read the Bible again, it rubbed me the wrong way. So I had to watch the whole thing. When I watched the whole thing, I'm sorry.
NLE Choppa was cooking. NLE Choppa was cooking them niggas up. I'm so sorry. Father, forgive me. I'm sorry. He was.
It's not supposed to be a who's right and who's wrong. It's a discussion. But sometimes egos get involved. Sometimes people feel like they have seniority because they're a certain age, and NLE Choppa's really young. So they're trying to school this boy, and they trying to...
Let me learn you something. Because I've been on this earth for 175 years longer than you.
Now, do you feel like you're at that experience level to where you can tell these and give these some advice?
Do I?
Like, really?
Yes.
You can give Johnathan some advice.
If he's willing to receive.
That's way out. I need to smoke a cigarette.
I just want to reiterate something. Just because you've been on this earth longer, just because you're older than somebody, doesn't necessarily mean that you know what you're talking about. This bothers me to no end. Because I say this all the time when it comes to relationship and being in the relationship space, right? So many people will be like, well, honey, I've been married for 25 years. Okay, understandable. What you do with that information, you take the meat, you throw away the bones. That doesn't mean that everything that you say is word, your word is bond, everything that you say is right. Because number one, you were married 20 years ago. The state of the economy, the state of the world, what we thought about relationships, what a wife meant, what women meant, certain rights, certain laws were different 20 years ago. So how you moved in 1980 isn't going to be how I move in 2025. Now, I can take certain things from you, like honoring my husband, respecting my wife. That we can take certain things and we can listen to your stories and we can try to apply it to modern day life. But that doesn't mean that you understand fully what I'm experiencing. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to understand fully what you're experiencing. You know, a lot of people's gripes with NLE Choppa was the fact that he wasn't listening. And I will say this, me having ADHD, I like to go ahead and finish your sentence, especially when I think you're long-winded. I'm so sorry. And this is funny because I'm long-winded. But it's like when somebody is beating a point over and over again, beating a dead horse, and this is what I think, and this and another. I'm like,
Oh my gosh! Stop! Let me talk!
and I had to learn to calm that down, right? To calm whatever's in me down and listen to somebody, no matter how long-winded, no matter if I disagree, no matter if they keep going over the same point over and over and over again. Listen to a person, receive what they're saying, and then go ahead and, say what you got to say. NLE didn't do that, and he already explained why he didn't. So they're talking about God, right? And they're talking about their walks with God. And Jay Barnett talks about mental health, and he puts mental health into it, right? And he's like, I experienced, wanting to unalive myself, talking about self-termination, talking about depression.
Went home and attempted to take my life. So I was a cutter. My dad was a pastor, my parents divorced, and I started cutting at 13. And every time something would happen, I would always cut.
And you guys know I talk about depression all the time because sadness and depression are not the same things. Depression takes you into such a dark hole that you literally have to climb yourself out of. NLE was basically saying like, I've experienced that too. All these men have experienced really hard times in their life. And I think it was so good. That conversation was such a good thing to have, right? Because I want to see Black men open up more about what they experienced and what they went through and mental health problems. So I love the conversation. But NLE was like, it was God that spoke to me. It was God that took me through and brought me through that hard period. God did that for me.
One of the main things God told me is the greatest gift is life. I relate to that. I've tried to take my life before.
NLE was talking about spirituality. I'm going to get to this a little bit later. NLE was talking about spirituality and what I've learned, right, through my own walk, through what I've been through, my own trauma and my own triggers that I experienced this year. All this loss really made me feel like I had a spiritual awakening, right? And I didn't know anything about that until I sought out God. right? Of course, you go to church. I went to church. Of course, you talk to your pastors. Of course, you talk to your mentors. Of course, you pray, especially when you're going through a hard time. And you say, God, why am I going through this? What is my purpose? When you start to seek out answers, you will find them. And I found that there is a big difference between spirituality and religion. And I told you guys this before. Back in the day, when I used to hear people say, well, I'm just spiritual, I used to think that, okay, you just don't like to listen to God, or you just don't believe in God, or maybe you just want to live by your own rules. I was so ignorant. I was so naive. I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't know what spirituality really meant until I sought out answers. And now I see and I can really understand why certain people are spiritual, certain people are more religious, certain people want to go to church and go to church every week and sow a seed, and they believe that their pastor, is really guiding them. And a lot of people are in like a religious psychosis, but that's a whole nother episode. Because what we're seeing is a lot of pastors and a lot of religious leaders manipulating the Bible, manipulating scriptures in order to receive what they want, in order to benefit from their congregation. That's a whole nother conversation, because that really pisses me off. So NLE is going more spiritual, whereas the other men are going more religious. So as they're talking about, depression and being in a dark place, Johnathan Majors looks at NLE and he's like, I understand what you're talking about, young brother. I get it, right? God pulled you through this dark period of time, but sorry, bad news, Kirk. Bad news, y'all. God's not gonna pull you through depression.
Like, I hear you, young brother. Like, I hear you. But in that dark space, bad news. Bad news, Kurt. Like, nothing's getting you out.
God's not gonna pull you through. Everybody says, live for your babies and live for your daughter and da-da-da-da-da. But when you are in a dark space, that's not gonna happen. It just isn't. And you know what? To be honest with you, I understood what Johnathan Majors was saying. I understood that Johnathan Majors was saying that when you are deep down in it, when you are in the darkest depths of your mind, because that's what it is, right? When you fight your mind, people call it the devil. People call it depression. People call it demonic spirits or the spirit of depression. Whatever you call it, it is you battling yourself. It is you battling your mind. It is all these negative thoughts in your head that's like, I can't deal with this anymore. I don't deserve to be here. I don't need to be here. Nobody's benefiting from me being here anyway. I can't be a good mother. I can't be a good father. I'm not even a good son. I'm not even a good husband. It's all these thoughts in your mind telling you why you don't deserve to be here, that you should just take yourself out, and you can't get out of it when you're in that. To me, I can understand that, because what happens is it'll be days and weeks and months, and sometimes people are in it for years. God bless the people that are in it for years, and they cannot find a happy place. They cannot find the light at the end of the tunnel, and they are trying. Unfortunately, some of us get so comfortable in that depression, we have that long functional depression where I've never been happy. I've never saw the light. I'm just here. I'm just existing. I ask people all the time on my Instagram, are you living or are you existing? Because a lot of us are just existing. So I understood what Johnathan was saying, but I also understood NLE Choppa, right? Because a lot of the men, also Kev on Stage, I'm sorry for forgetting that. Kev on Stage, the comedian, he's more of like a spiritual comedian. He talks about church and different things like that. He was also a part of the conversation. I understood that the older men were saying, sometimes God isn't enough. That's what Kirk said.
What I can say, that my walk with God, NLE, has not been enough.
He said sometimes when you're in it, God isn't enough. And a lot of people freaked out about that.
What do you mean God isn't enough? Jesus is always the way. Jesus is always, Yahweh is always the way.
We understand that Jesus is the way. What they are saying is when you are deep, deep down in depression and you cannot see anything and the devil is heavy on your back. Some people call it devil. Some people call it a chemical imbalance. If you're more scientific, if you're more like this is such a weird conversation, but it's a conversation that needs to be had, because spirituality is nothing like religion, even though some pastors, if you ever listen to Pastor Ike, some people mix spirituality and religion because they think it goes hand in hand. I am one of them. I believe that spirituality and religion goes hand in hand. A lot of people don't believe in all that spiritual mumbo jumbo going into the grass, grounding yourself and talking to the trees. You need to be in church talking to the pastor.
Revival! Let's go to revival!
I understand that. I'm the type of person that allows people to believe what they want to believe. There's so much talk about Christianity. What about Muslim? What about Buddha? What about all these other, you know what I'm saying? Like, People are allowed to believe whatever they need to believe in order to get them where they need to go. Me personally, I'ma always call on Jesus, but I am very spiritual. I had a spiritual walk, so I understand what NLE Choppa is saying because God did take me through there. Johnathan more so said, when you are deep in it, you can pray, you can cry out. I went to church, I volunteered, I meditated, I did everything that I could think of to get myself out of this dark space. And day after day, it just felt like it was never gonna end. It's like, when am I gonna get out of this? I understood what he meant. However, God did bring me out of it. Point blank, period. My faith in God brought me out of it. My faith in myself. You know, a lot of spiritual people believe that Jesus was going around town to town speaking on Christ consciousness because we are made in the image of God. And so that God is within us. There's a lot of people that preach that God is within you. A lot of religious people don't like that. No, you don't pray to yourself. No. You pray to God. God is another entity. You pray to God and you go to the pastor and the pastor's going to tell you. It's whatever you believe. I believe in Christ consciousness. I believe that we were made in the image of the Lord. There's I side eye a lot of religious leaders because they'll sit up here and they'll talk about condemning everybody for sins that they don't commit. But when it comes to what they commit, when it comes to what they do, then it's, I've fallen short and everything. You know, it's all a bunch of BS. Christ consciousness, we are made in his image. We are to share. We are to love. We are to teach. We are to guide. We are to fellowship. You know, I talk about this all the time. Lying, stealing, manipulating. It's going to take you a little bit to get to where you want to go in this carnal life, in this worldly world. If you're not lying, stealing, manipulating, if you're not taking from people, if you're not lying to people, like a lot of these pastors are doing that. I'm not saying all of them. I want to have hope, but a lot of them are. And so it's making people go away from religion or man-made religion. A lot of people are questioning, well, hold on, how many times was the Bible remade or rewritten? You know, a lot of people have those questions, and you should be able to answer those questions without becoming snarky and without thinking that you know everything. That's another thing that older churchgoers do. Well, you don't know the Bible. That's what Johnathan Majors did to NLE Choppa. And when NLE Choppa was talking about his struggles, NLE said that happiness, a lot of people seek happiness, and he got a lot of what he wanted, but none of what he needed.
I think happiness, people trying to seek happiness in the wrong places, it just comes from gratitude. Mm-hmm. It's about being thankful for what's already around you. Mm-hmm.
That was really, really deep because I told you guys on episode 1 or 2, right, that I had gotten everything that I ever wanted, but I still felt empty and I did not understand why. Everything that I ever wanted, I could buy whatever I wanted, I could do whatever I wanted, but I still felt empty and I did not know why. And it's because you're chasing something. This is what's gonna make me happy. This is what's gonna make me happy. No, a lot of it is, first of all, grounding yourself. Calm down the noise. Ground yourself. Look around you. You might not be where you want to be, but I'm telling you right now, you're not where you were, and you're going to make the steps necessary. You're going to take the steps necessary to get where you want to be. But first, ground yourself and be grateful. I don't know what you believe in, and I don't care, but I know this. God, the universe, whatever you believe in, isn't going to give you more than what you can handle right now. If you already aren't happy with what you have right now, why would they give you more? If you can't make do with what you got right now and look around and say, thank God I still have, or thank the universe, or thank
Babylon.
Whatever you believe in. Write down what you believe in the comments. If you can't look around and say, thank you, I have breath in my body, my heart is still beating, I still have another chance, I still have another day, I can still make it. If you can't do that, then why do you need another mansion? You don't even like your townhouse. Why do you need 2-3 cars? You don't even like the car you got now. You weren't even happy with that. And that was what you once prayed for. You once prayed for the life that you have right now, but I won't get too deep into it. NLE said that he refused multiple $1 million deals because something wasn't right in his spirit.
I took a break. I could have made $4, $5, $6, $10 million. I left it all on a plate to sit down because something in my spirit wasn't right.
Something wasn't right in his spirit. So he had to sit down, ground himself, put his feet in the ground, put his feet on the ground, sit by a tree and talk to God and shut up and listen. And that is what the spirit is, in my opinion. I'm not here to tell y'all this. I'm not here to get y'all to believe me. I'm telling you what I experienced in my life. When you meditate, when you quiet the noise, when you sit down in nature, when you look at God and when you look at what God has created, which is nature, and you say, guide me, Father, guide me. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm here for. I don't know what my purpose is. Please guide me, Lord. What am I supposed to do? The Spirit is quiet. The Spirit will tell you exactly what you need to do. And no, it's not going to be immediate. No, it's not going to be that day. No, it's not going to be a step-by-step. No, but they will guide you. Your spirit guides, your ancestors, Jesus, Yahweh, whatever, the universe, whatever you believe in. If you quiet the noise, if you go down into nature, if you touch grass so seriously, the Spirit will tell you what you need to do. And that's just what it is. That's my experience. And he said that he let God feed him. And he wrote in his journal, everybody knows I love a journal. Go on down to kitasaid.com and get my Growing Through It journal. And he wrote in his journal.
And I wrote down everything. I jotted it. I got a journal. I got 4-5 journals stacked over 3-4 months. It's like a Bible.
And it was like a Bible at the end of it. He said 112 days he sat there and he needed God or the Spirit to guide him because something wasn't right. He was getting a lot of money at 17 years old. He was blowing up. We all know he was making millions and he was getting caught up in the industry, sex this and sex that and this and this, that. Okay. One of the things that was controversial that NLE said was he doesn't like when people praise Jesus instead of God, right?
People praise the Son more than they praise the Father. And that's what I don't like.
Okay.
Because if we are man made in a likeness, Jesus is our brother. Why would I drop down and praise my brother instead of praising my Father?
Jesus is our brother, so you're falling on your knees and you're praising Jesus, which I'm number one. I'm gonna call him.
Long as I got King Jesus, long as I got King Jesus, long as I got him, don't need nobody else.
I'm gonna call on Jesus. That's just what I'm gonna call. If anything happens to me, if I'm being attacked spiritually or physically in this world or this realm, I'm gonna call King Jesus. I'm gonna say, Jesus. That's what I'm gonna say. He said he doesn't like that. He wants people to acknowledge God, right? God gave his only son. His son came down to die for our sins. We need to acknowledge God. Again, this goes all into what you believe. I brought up something right here. I want to read it to y'all straight up. That's when basically Johnathan Majors was like, do you read the Bible? Oh, you need to read it again. Here's my thing about that as well. Before I read to you what I'm going to read to you. I cannot stand older people that try to school you. You know, in the beginning of the conversation, they had asked NLE Choppa how old he was. He said that he was 22, and everybody's like,
Oh, I got draws your age, young buck.
listen, I say this again all the time. If I am 40 years old and I never rode a bike and there's a 12-year-old in front of me that has ridden a bike, that 12-year-old has more experience in bike riding. That is just what it is. You do not know what this man has experienced. You do not know what he has seen. If he's seen murder, he said he's seen murder. He said he lived in some of the most dangerous cities. He said he had to see people die. He's paid for funerals. Have you experienced that? Okay, well then he's telling you why he was in a dark place, what he needed to do to get out of a dark place, what he believed in to get him out of a dark place. That doesn't mean that he's wrong because he's 22 years old. We've got to stop doing that, and that is why there's a rift between older people and younger people, and we need to come together. We need to come together because younger people are going to teach you about this generation, and older people are going to teach you how they went through what they went through. And together, you have wisdom. Together, you can make more calculated decisions on how you should move in your life. Godly. Why is this so freaking hard? So I wanted to look up kind of what NLE was talking about when he said, God is our brother. So I found this here that says, the scripture you're thinking of is in Matthew 12:50, where Jesus says, for whoever does the will of my Father, who is in heaven, is my brother and sister and mother. The idea of Jesus being our brother is also found in Hebrews 2:11 and Romans 8:29. The concept of Jesus as a spiritual father is sometimes understood through verses like John 14:9, where Jesus says, whoever has seen me has seen the Father. The idea of Jesus as a husband is also understood metaphorically with verses like Ephesians 5:22-33, comparing the relationship of Christ to the church to that of husbands and the wife, right? Christ is to church as your husband is to your wife. There's a covenant, there's a fellowship, there's a bond, there's a union. What I looked up was Jesus shows up in the Bible as many things: our husband, our father, our brother, the son, the spirit, the Holy Ghost. There's a lot of ways that you can depict the Bible. What I didn't like about what Johnathan Major said, even if you didn't understand what NLE was saying about how he wanted to acknowledge God more rather than Jesus, he sees Jesus as a more of a brother. He sees them as siblings rather than Jesus is our father, which there are many, many scriptures that says, whoever has seen me has seen the Father. If you see me, you've seen God. I am made in the image of God, but so are you. There's a lot of people in spirituality that believe that Christ consciousness means that the power of God is inside of us. You're seeking sometimes things that are right inside of you. But that's a whole nother conversation. What I don't like about what Johnathan Majors did or said was that he was quick to be like, read it again. Well, if you know it so well.
Have you read the Bible?
I read the Bible. I listen to the Bible. I receive from source straight.
I would say read it again.
Why don't you, well, if you know it so well, why don't you recite the Bible? Why don't you recite the scripture? Why don't you teach the young brother? Telling him to read 100,000 pages in the Bible, what's that going to do when he said he's already read the Bible and this is what his understanding of what God is to him is? Why don't you tell him why he's wrong? Why don't you recite some scriptures? Why don't you teach and why don't you guide? Unless you just want it to be snarky. So last week, NLE responded to Kirk posting the video. Of course, everybody had their own feelings about it. I think he cooked. I think he talked about how he needed God to get out of the dark place. I think he talked about spirituality. I think that he was very, very clear and concise on how he feels, but I do understand that he didn't allow other people to talk. And I think his comment speaks to that, right? He said, it's tough to listen to a group of people when they try to undermine wisdom because of my age. This is his comment on Kirk Franklin's YouTube page. He said, truth is, I've lived more than an average 22-year-old. Everything they mentioned going through, I have withstood with them. Addiction, suicidal thoughts, deaths, fatherhood, smear campaigns, etc. I felt inadequate at the table because everyone wanted to use age as the reason why my point of view holds no weight. And with that, mentally put my defense in a mode. A lot of moments I for sure was out of alignment with listening, but I had my reasons. The brother Johnathan couldn't even make eye contact with me the whole entire interview. And that's just one mirror thing in a list of several that took me out of the conversation. Some moments I wasn't really there because I was fighting a feeling of being attacked because of the intellect I carried. I'm an empath, so I feel everything. I feel it, I take it to the 10th degree. In all honesty, the version of me God is molding isn't done yet. I don't feel I was ready to do an interview because this was my first in a long time. But hey, I tried. I appreciate the opportunity, Kirk. I understood him completely. One, as an empath, I feel everything. I'm feeling all y'all energy. If somebody starts crying, I'm feeling it. It's taking over me, and I had to really, in my life, understand that everybody's energy isn't for me to take, and sometimes I gotta go ahead and put up that wall, because a lot of the times with empaths, they'll take advantage of you, but that's a whole nother episode, y'all. Whole nother episode. They will take advantage of the fact that you are an empath and you feel intensely, and they will use it against you. I do think that he didn't listen, but I do think that he had a defense up. Let me know in the comments what you guys felt about this whole interview. Did you see it? You know, I didn't think it was an interview. I think it was more of a conversation, but again, you got some heavy hitters, right? Johnathan Majors, if you guys can remember, Johnathan Majors also dealt with depression, I bet, when he was convicted of that domestic violence situation. Oh my God!
Everything is a legend. Everything is a legend. My name is a legend. Everything is a legend. Ah!
When he was dealing with that domestic violence situation, he was convicted of a misdemeanor assault and harassment in 2023 for fighting his ex, or the fight that he had with his ex, and then he was sentenced to a 52-week domestic violence program. And that's what he was saying in the interview. He was like, I was so down that Megan couldn't get me out of it. Nobody couldn't get me out of it.
My baby girl wasn't gonna get me out. My mama told me I can't get you out.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Megan couldn't get me out.
And your mama preacher.
My mama preacher.
We all have experienced depression in our own way. And all of us need, whether it's medicine, right? I had a whole podcast, unmedicated. I didn't change it up.
Your girl is medicated now. Heavily, hello.
Whether you need medication, whether you seek out God, whether you need a mixture of the two, whether you need to ground yourself, go outside, be more spiritual, hug the trees, so they say, and really ground yourself and get the energy from the earth. A lot of people think that's hippy dippy, crystals and whatnot. Okay. It's what you believe in, bro. But what I don't like, don't condemn me for my beliefs. Don't sit up here and say that what I experienced in my life wasn't good enough, or you don't believe in it, or I'm just talking just because you haven't experienced it. Don't try to undermine what I got going on. I'm sorry, NLE Choppa cooked. He didn't listen. It was hard to listen when he was in defense mode. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Ray J talked about how he shouldn't have even been there. We don't know why Ray J was there at all. Listen to this expert of Ray J saying how he shouldn't have been there.
Kirk Franklin for what I did last night, man. I just couldn't take it, bro. I could not understand why I was not being talked to. Like, it got cold, it got hot. The cowboy hat that I had on started itching. I started getting heartburn. I love the rice. I ate the rice, but the rice, I think it had something else, a bell pepper or something. It gave me heartburn. It was unnecessary to have me there.
We understand, Ray J. We don't understand why you were there or anything. But listen, Ray J, I don't know if Kirk paid these people to be there. Ray J's going to do what he needs to do for a check, okay? Until next time, I will holla.